once she got a diagnosis for ADHD, her life.
You're not coping at school, so you fail. You're always in trouble, so that can trigger depression and anxiety that I'm always going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And so they actually feed each other.
It comes down to two things. So the first thing I look at is, does this child... See, this is where people don't understand what teachers are doing. They are adjusting for every one of those children in different ways.
What does that mean, Lynda? What do you have to do? Hey, we're so glad you're here.
We talk about faith, no filter. Welcome to Filthy Hope. Reverend sister.
Reverend brother.
We are back for Filthy Hope.
Part 2, brother.
Part
so
2
excited.
of our conversation with Lynda Humphries, who also happens to be my wife, or
And
I'm
my
happy
friend.
to be her husband.
So great. Sister friend.
Hi.
Thanks for coming today. We are in part 2. If you haven't already tuned into Filthy Hope, Lynda gave her story, shared in a conversation with us about her life story as an educator for more than 30 years with a master's degree in wellness and leadership. And we're here talking today more about how that's played out in Lynda's life as an educator. But today I want to ask her about being a mum and what you've found, Lynda, because I know a bit about your story and I know your precious daughters. Tell me about the girls.
So we have 3 beautiful daughters who are all adults now and have grown up. Very different, very all got their strengths, each of them, and have all grown up very successful and done well. But there was a point in their lives where we started to realise that we might have needed to look into some things. She was exhibiting. She was not coping. She was exhibiting some anxiety, and look, we did a few things for her. We changed schools. That was a really good thing for her in particular. But on that journey, we also did some investigation into why she was feeling so anxious a lot of the time. And
because there was a picture, she was really successful and intelligent and was doing really, really, really well for like years 1, 2, and then started suddenly in year 3 and 4, the results started going down, and that then corresponded
we changed
with her
schools
well-being.
and things sort of changes happened that she didn't cope well with, and so a few things had happened, but we looked into it a little bit more. And as we were on that process looking for her, who we thought was quite a bit more obvious, in saying that, just so you know, she was actually an extremely well-behaved, good little girl, no behavioural problems at all. In fact, she was quite delightful, very talented musically, was doing all sorts of things, and but the wheels were falling off, and we were seeing the little secret hidden signs. And even then, to that day, the school she was in at that time in year 4 said to us, "There's nothing wrong with her. She's absolutely fine." And we said, "Well, why is there a complete disarray in her desk?" And she had food in there that was and
she
all
was the
sorts
queen
of things.
leaving apples
Yep.
in her bag.
She loved to eat apples, but they were half eaten and they were
they'd
everywhere.
be mouldy, and there'd be like 5 mouldy
Fruit
apples.
flies.
And these were just the signs to us. When we started seeing this, we knew the wheels were falling off for this kid. So we did some investigation along the way. Eldest child also said,
Once she was
did
diagnosed,
some reading.
yeah.
No, because she was. We did it at the same time, the two of them. We started that process for her, and eldest child said, "I think that might be me too," which is our realization of, so it looked completely different in them.
So for those who want to know, our daughters all have ADHD, or what is now called ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Not that they presented with hyperactivity. Back then it was called attention deficit disorder.
Inattentive form.
Inattentive form. And now there's 3 forms, aren't there, Lynda?
There's inattentive, there is hyperactive, and then there's combined type.
Wow.
But yeah, so they weren't difficult. They weren't naughty. And this is something I've become from this with our girls, become really passionate about, because as it turned out, as a teacher, yes, as it turned out, number 3 daughter as well ended up getting diagnosed as well.
And let's be honest,
us too.
both of us are about to go and see a psychiatrist and get diagnosed ourselves.
Yeah, wow.
So I think today that's part of the thing of our conversation is we're looking at how we identify difference in other people and be accepting of it. And the society teaches us around stigma, around difference, whether it's neurodiversity or whether it's just ability or race, language, culture, gender, religion, all that stuff. We're just not really that inclusive. We don't then accept it in ourselves. We don't even look for it. We don't look for it in ourselves.
Yep.
We don't look for it in our kids, even though we were both educators.
Yeah.
And I was
Both
quite
teachers.
passionate about it with my students already at that
Wow,
point,
Lynda.
and I still hadn't picked it in my
And
own
you're
children.
seeing it in the students in school, but you still didn't pick it up in your own little ones.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
a big
extraordinary.
moment was a story of our eldest who came home after NAPLAN. For those who are not Australian, it's a test that the government gives to get a sense of how students are progressing in their learning. She'd done the test. We asked her, how did she go? She said, oh, great. Did you finish? No.
No.
But Mum, because she was at the school that Lynda went to and I was teaching at, and I was chaplain. Mum, why were there a year where the Ducks was the same person
2 years
for
in a
2
row?
years in a row? And
And the school captains
Yeah,
for 2
why-
years in a row. And also, Mum, what were you that year where there were 2 Duckses? Was that when you graduated? And I
we
went,
She
yes.
sat in the exam room with all the honour boards around, and instead of
She
doing
very
the
intelligently had analysed those boards,
But
but
didn't do the
hadn't done the
test.
tests.
Wow.
test, so we knew, yeah. So,
This was when we were waiting for the results to come, and we were like, oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, that's what it's going to be.
And so, Lynda, what happened then as a parent? Because you're smiling about this and you're giggling about this, and I know your family, but I do know that my daughter, as a speech pathologist, often talks about the pain that the parents suffer when they find there's a diagnosis of ADHD or autism or both. How come you're not having a reaction like that?
Partly because at that point I'd already taught a lot of children that were had so many struggles. I was that teacher who, I still remember one class I had at one point. I looked around and I think I had 23 children or 24 children in the class, and 17 of them had something I was adjusting for, whether that was a physical, a social, a cognitive or learning sort of difference, something that was going on at home. I looked around and I went, oh my gosh, they're like the standard, supposedly neurotypical in this class are absolutely the minority.
really stretched.
And
really
so when you
stretched me.
say adjustment for, can you unpack what you mean there as an educator? What do you have to do to adjust for?
See, this is where people don't understand what teachers are doing. They are adjusting for every one of those
Or
children
supposed to.
in different
What does
ways.
that mean, Lynda? What do you have to do?
So if it is impacting their learning, you might be writing multiple activities for a certain lesson. You might be saying, well, I'm going to adjust it. Let me tell you, AI is a fantastic addition for this, because you can put it in and say, give me this passage suitable for a grade below or a grade above, things like that, which is fantastic. But you might be adjusting the learning.
Wow.
Or you might be changing it and saying, okay, for that child and that child, I only want you to do this part because that's actually all you can cope with. Or it might be adjusting the way you are speaking or the tone that you are using or how you teach a certain subject, because you know that might trigger something in a certain child in your class. It might be about we've actually just had some professional development this week at school about what your class looks like and setting your class up so that you don't actually create a brain sort of clutter, a visual noise around students. So there's so many things that those teachers are thinking about to adjust in that classroom. They're looking at the beginning of the year at every single child.
Because it's trendy often to have one of those centred misters.
Right.
But for some kids, that just sets
Too
them
much.
right
Sets you
off.
off. We go to assembly. I've got lots of kids who will come to assembly and chapel
Headphones?
with headphones on because the noise is too much. We've got lots that actually have it written into their IPs that they will have individual program. Sorry, yes, that they will have a fiddle toy or a chair band so that they can move in the classroom.
Some of it's allowing kids to walk around the classroom, sitting at different things, there's pedal things you can do. But it's also for kids that are highly intelligent that you need to just check in that they do actually have the concept then
Pre-test.
rather than just
Pre-test it.
make them just sit through and do that whole page of work, just go, okay, do me 1 and 2 of the last ones that show that you really can do it, and then we'll give you different work to do that may stretch them or take them in a different direction, or maybe they get on with a special interest project. I think the message in all this that we want to talk about today, that it's not just something that teachers should be doing, that we should be understanding that difference is just part of life and that we're all different, and that person at work or that person at church who you may not understand, if we understand each other better, then we can actually accommodate and just adjust our way of being, or maybe our space.
Yeah.
Like, so trendy at the moment to have open plan classrooms and open plan workspaces. But for some people, that's so much noise. So rather than then getting judged at work because, you know, you're wearing headphones, you're just listening to music.
Yeah, you need your
You
own
actually
space.
need to somehow help them be productive and be their best self by allowing them to do that, by adjusting to their own needs.
So the education system's changed a lot since I was a kid.
Yes.
Because the kids that would fiddle and fidget and probably it is, forgive me, listeners and educators, if I've got this wrong, but act out or be behaviourally inappropriate, whatever that was deemed to be in the day.
Yeah.
Those kids got in trouble.
Yes.
They
Like
did.
badass trouble.
But
They
not
got
that
caned.
long
we
ago.
got caned, Lynda.
Yes, but not even that long ago. So when our middle child was falling apart and the school was saying to us, no, there's nothing wrong, it's fine, and we knew she wasn't, part of that was because there was a child in the class who was acting out big time. And I was looking at it going, I bet that child has some struggles that we don't know about, that they're dealing with. And all we were hearing was that child was getting put on the wall every day,
What's
which
the
meant
wall?
that
So they had
he
to
had to
stand
stand
facing
with
the
their
wall.
nose against the wall
Oh, shit.
during lunch breaks.
Because you just can't cope
Is
with
that a
life.
thing? They don't do that now, surely.
Well, I would hope not.
No.
but,
No, they would be called abuse now.
On the
But,
wall?
yeah, and that
Wow.
wasn't that long ago.
Wow, Lynda.
You know, this was in primary school for her and she's now 25.
Yeah,
So it is not
okay.
that long ago.
And,
Like
and the
time
reality
out.
is,
Yes.
it's not just teachers, it's us. We will look at a person and we go, you're just weird or
Annoying.
annoying, and rather than or rude and aggressive. And that's not to excuse even bad behaviour, because sometimes kids are acting out and they will do something that is actually wrong and hurt other children. But rather than trying to punish them for something that they may not be able to cope with, how would you do that? Because rather than just going, oh, you're so bad and so naughty, you need to be suspended. How do schools like yours deal with kids that might be presenting with some sort of what we would call bad behaviour?
Yeah. So it comes down to two things. So the first thing I look at is is this child for one reason or another, whatever it is this child on an individual plan or at least coming under our student services team for some reason, which usually means there's something more there. We either have a diagnosis or we suspect there could be something else there, but we're really just basing it on the behaviours and that child is requiring more support. So the first thing I look at is that. So their ability.
If they're not coping with the level of support, the adjustments aren't appropriate. When you're not coping, you tend to act out.
Yeah.
Or you shut down
Because your
and
needs
you
aren't
stop
being
working.
met.
Your needs
Yes,
aren't
your
being
needs
met.
aren't being met.
You're
That's
not being
exactly right. So I want to look at the
So
why.
strangely,
It's all about coming back to the why.
even being bad or
Naughty.
doing something that's actually hurting themselves or somebody else, you're saying one of the first strategies is to understand what's going on, and then if you can meet that needs, probably that behaviour then starts to stop.
And so I mean, look, quite often with us, we would track ABC data, so antecedent behaviour consequence. So what we're looking at is what was the trigger that triggered this behaviour, what was the actual behaviour we saw, and then what was the consequence, which isn't, what did they get in trouble or
No.
the punishment they received.
No.
It's actually, what did they get out of it? Because sometimes what they're getting out of it is they're actually seeking attention. And so it doesn't matter if it's good or bad.
Or connection.
They're getting connection or they're getting, because
used to
they're
say
getting
that. So
sent out with.
I can poke you and you find that really annoying and you're going, I'm just being annoying.
Yes.
But actually what I want is
you to pay attention.
to give me some
A bit of time.
connection.
Attention. Yeah.
Or I need touch.
Yes.
And
Wow.
my dog does that.
Wow.
She puts her hand on
She
me.
does.
I know,
Yes.
so does mine.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I just
I
want
want
you to know I'm
attention now.
here.
Yeah, please know I'm
and
here.
I don't feel that I'm being validated. I don't.
Wow.
I don't
Yeah.
So
think-
how does that play out then? I can understand that in the school system, and school has come a long way since I was a student, let me tell you, hasn't it, Lynda?
Yeah.
Since we were at school.
Yeah.
And trauma-informed education must have shaped the way that we
Very much.
educators do the gig now.
But all sorts of difference as well.
Yeah,
So,
all sorts
exactly.
of
so we're
difference.
aware of trauma. We're as Lynda said, different ability,
Neurodiversity.
but how our brains work.
Yes.
We ask the question, what's happening at home?
Yes.
You know, is
Yeah.
this behaviour because, things are disrupted at home, and if things are disrupted at home,
The
then they
first
come
things
to
we usually
school.
start with, in all honesty, is
Talk to the
Um,
parents and
but-
say, how are
but
you
also
going?
we're talking to the parents, but we're also going, what about sensory stuff?
Right.
Are you not seeing what's going? Are you not seeing the board? Are you not seeing?
Yes.
Are you not hearing what is happening in
Yes.
classes? Are you actually
Auditory.
misbehaving because you're actually missing
Can't
a lot
And
of
that
what's
was one
going
of our
on?
kids. They
Yes.
just needed glasses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. One of your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they also needed meds.
Yes.
And when they got the meds,
Yep.
both our eldest, all three of them went, oh, wow, school's
Yeah.
different.
School's different.
Mm.
Yeah.
I can do stuff
Oh, wow.
because
Yeah, wow.
ADHD is an inability for the brain to
Yes.
be stimulated enough, so they seek stimulation in other places. So they can't focus because they're not getting enough stimulation, or they get hyper focused because that's their sweet interest point. So
My favourite one, parents say to me, it's not ADHD because they can really focus on something they're interested in. I go, yeah, that's called hyperfocus.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
I have a story of somebody very close to me who wasn't diagnosed with ADHD as a young girl, but was later diagnosed with ADHD into her 40s.
Mhm.
And it'd been misdiagnosed as depression, anxiety, mental health issues, a whole range of different things. And those
and often
meds,
they can be comorbid,
yes.
we call
Yes,
it, which
they
is
can.
one,
Yeah.
the ADHD not being dealt with means that you're not coping at school, so you fail. You're always in trouble, so that can trigger depression and anxiety
Right,
that
right.
I'm always
There's a
going to get in
loop.
trouble.
Yeah.
And so they actually feed each other.
And none of those meds worked for her. And so she became a dabbler in amphetamines, in illegal, illicit drugs. And she didn't understand what the fuss was all about because she actually just felt really normal. She felt really normal. She thought, I don't know what you're all carrying on about. This isn't that great. I just feel really like I'm doing really well right now.
Mm.
And then once she got a diagnosis for ADHD, her life, she would tell you just
You get the good amphetamines.
the
right
right
ones.
ones,
Right ones.
the right ones
Yeah.
for her, yeah. And life has improved dramatically. I would say, she would say,
Yeah.
And it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
That somebody didn't pick that up earlier on. You
We
know,
didn't know.
we didn't know.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know anything about these things.
Yes.
And also, this is the thing, it was very boy-centric,
Right.
particularly neurodiversity. So
Because
physical,
they acted out more.
They
That's
act
where
out
the
more.
hyperactive came.
And they were the naughty boys at school that got the cane.
and the
Yeah.
tests are all, even for a very long time once they worked ADHD out, the tests are all
And still are.
and still are primarily driven way more to what that looks like. And it's not fair to put it on a boy-girl thing,
Sure.
but it has tended to be more of that hyperactivity in the boys and more.
Or
But there
not
can be
being able
absolutely
to
be exceptions.
Control. So
How fascinating.
cognitive, not being able to impulse control.
Impulse
So
control.
they
Yes.
talk or they
They yell. They
just
call out in
yell.
class. Call out in the class all the time.
or they whack somebody or they're,
Mm.
they're just, yeah.
But
I loved calling
the
out in
difference
the
is,
class.
but girls fall under the radar
Yes.
because actually what girls do is that they will mask it and they
Mm.
will work harder and harder to actually quite often be the perfect student.
Mm.
So they are trying hard. They're not talking at the wrong time. They're not doing any of those things because actually they're quite good at mimicking the people around them, but that doesn't mean they necessarily understand.
Same with autism.
And same with autism. And so much of their cognitive load, their brain
Exhausting.
capacity, it's exhausting, but it's being taken up with that stuff instead of actually taking in
Listening.
learning. So they're missing
Yeah.
stuff.
And
Wow.
we're talking about cognitive load, we saw that with kids who come from different language backgrounds. And, at one stage in the school I was at, in the boarding house, the kids were being told that they could only speak English.
Mm.
And yet they're having to process everything twice because they've got to translate what's being said in English, try and put all their answers into English that they are not really masters of. They can't. They just need to talk in their own language.
And they've done it all day at school.
They've done and
English all day.
In their home space, which is
Yes.
the boarding house.
Wow.
That's their home.
No freedom.
No space just to be safe and with talk the language of both your heart, but also without that extra cognitive load which you just need to
Talk about exhausting.
rest from.
Yeah.
So acceptance is something really important that we're learned at school, and I think we need to. Do you think we need to learn that in other spaces as well?
Well, I know that I have increasingly become passionate about the fact that churches are not very safe spaces, and that sort of is heartbreaking because we should be the safest, most accepting space and including sort of space,
we should
inclusive
model it,
space.
shouldn't
We should be modelling this, but actually, whatever that difference is, I find that some differences in different churches are cater differently. Some do gender difference very well. Others are still struggling with
or
that. Sexuality. Some do. Like they might accept someone with a physical disability and do all sorts of things to cater.
Poverty,
mental illness, and people that come in off a street, things like that. There's some things that we do well, but other things we do really badly. And I often speak to someone I've worked with about the fact that churches are. She's neurodiverse, she's autistic, and that churches are
and for
overwhelming.
Her, stimulation is an issue.
Stimulation is an issue for her. She really struggles with that. And churches with all the noises, loud music, a lot of sometimes smells, touch, all sorts of things. It's just completely overwhelming for her. It's just why I was saying before. A lot of my kids
stories as well, that have nothing to do with neurodiversity. But I remember you telling a story because you used to ride a Harley. And you rocked up in your leathers and got changed, and then one of your mates rocked up and she rocked up in her leathers and sat down in the church. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. That I'd rocked up, beautiful church on the North Shore, and I was a young learning minister at the time, and my girlfriend and I, Kim was on a Harley, I was on a Honda, but I had all the pipes like a Harley. Yeah. And Kim and I had ridden to church this morning with Rob. Rob led the way and we came like a little bikie gang. It was so much fun. But in my panniers beside my bike, I had my dress and my heels and my hairbrush and my lipstick. So I could get off the bike and then go into the minister's office and hop into my frock and then go out and lead the service. And on this particular day, this woman in the church, bless her, had seen Kim and I arrive on the bikes, had seen two women get off bikes, and she saw
but
one.
Didn't see you.
Yeah, she didn't recognise it was me. Yeah. And I then duck into the office, I get changed, and I then come out via the front of the church. And Kim is in the church dressed in her leather jacket, still looking like the bikie, and a helmet on the pew. And then this little lady said to me, "Vanessa, come here." I said, "How are you? Good to see you." I said, "How are you?" And she said, "I need to tell you, love, I think today is a day. We've got 2 lesbians here and I think you're going to get hit up for a wedding." And I just did not know what or where this conversation came from. And I said to her, and I thought maybe this is a mental health issue here. I leant in and just trying to be loving and warm. And I said, who are you particularly thinking are these 2 women that have come into the church? And she turned around and she said, "That one with the short white hair. I don't know where the other one's gone." And I knew it was Kim, my friend. Yeah. And I thought, I said to her, that's Kim. You know Kim, her kids, and you know Mark, they've been in our Christmas concert, which was just a few weeks ago. And that's Kim. You know Kim. And she said, "Yes, but she came in with a woman on a bike." And I said, "That was me on the other bike. That was me."
Just assumptions.
And she was so upset. I said, "So, yeah, we're not lesbians, and even if we were, that'd be a great thing that they asked me if they wanted to get married, wouldn't it not? And it just led to a whole range of conversations. So no inclusion going on there on that day, let me tell you.
No.
Yeah.
And people drop back. But I think there's this sense, we use the word norm.
Yeah.
And even in neurospace, it's neurotypical
Yeah.
and neurodiverse. But the reality is we're all neurodiverse.
Yeah.
Because the norm just needs to get stretched. The norm is just a bell curve, and we arbitrarily choose some cutoff points that in between that space is normal and outside of that is not normal. But actually, we're all human.
And, in the church space, I think there's been, so much tradition around how church should be on a Sunday.
And part of the problem is
that?
we actually shape brains. So we know neuroplasticity is if we keep doing a habit for too long, or on the positive side, it becomes a positive habit and a discipline. On the negative side, it becomes a fixed mindset and can be, as you're saying, a cultural sticking point where this is normal and outside of that is not acceptable.
And if somebody who is not fitting within that norm comes into that space, then it can cause for those people that don't want any form of disruption a real issue. And I see that in my own church.
How does that affect, Lynda? How does that affect people from your experience who come into that space and then have that experience of either rejection or sometimes we tolerate them, but it means we don't just talk to them?
I think that there's a big thing that inclusion looks different to tolerating and sitting beside, like to acceptance. Accepting someone to just sit there is one thing, but actually if we're living out our faith and living like we're called to do from, Jesus' example, Jesus didn't sit and just allow them to be there. Jesus actually went and connected with those people. So for me, a lot of it has been about, my journey has been about the realization that actually it wasn't that person's responsibility to change, it was mine. And that it wasn't about, and I still get it wrong. Like I would never want to say I get it right all the time. I don't.
And you've had to learn
I'm
that
human.
as a teacher as well.
Absolutely, I've had to learn that.
It's not the kid's fault.
It's not the kid's fault. And look, and realistically, even in a classroom, there are some things you can't actually adjust, but at least I would ask myself the question, can we adjust something to make this work better for that person?
Or how we can support them to learn to.
Yes. But it shouldn't all be their responsibility to do that. It actually, if we're in an easier space, then actually it's the people in the easier space who should actually have the responsibility of making change, not the people who have already got plenty of other things they're struggling with. Why are we expecting them to make all the change?
And in the workplace, I think that's a really solid point. In the workplace, if we are working and we're in leadership in the workplace and people are not neurotypical, but they are masking really well, how are we to actually know if they're struggling, if they, haven't identified it in their own self, and then all of a sudden they may act out or not cope or have an issue? Whose responsibility is it then, and what can we better do as Jesus people, I suppose, to help or to adjust?
The only thing, I guess, if I bring it back to my own context, because that's sort of what I can talk about.
Sure.
But when I've had staff that have had struggles like that, and sometimes they've told me and sometimes they haven't told me or whether that they haven't seen it in themselves yet or not, but I will treat it like I would with a student. Like I will always go back to the behaviour.
Yeah.
I'm seeing this behaviour. This seems hard for you. Is that right? Am I reading this right?
Yeah, wow.
That this seems hard for you. And if that's the case, is there any way that I can help you? And if they don't know, I might give suggestions if I know them and say, would it help you if I did this? Would it help you if I, but it's always, communication and connection is always the first port of call for me.
Yes.
Like you've got to talk and say, well, how could I make that better for you? Or, we have
what you need.
What do you need? That's right. There's a group. We have a group that meets at our church that's for people with disabilities. It's beautiful. I absolutely love it. They're the most beautiful group of people.
Called Shine.
Called Shine. Yes, it's fabulous.
They started off as a
Youth group.
because there was a normal youth group,
Right.
but they were sort of being left out because they couldn't do exactly the same activities. And sometimes you need to differentiate. But this lovely woman, Jane, who we've got to have on our podcast,
She's the best.
said, well, I want my kids who don't struggle to have their regular space because they also deal with their daughter who has significant differences at home, that they just need to be with their tribe for a bit. But Emily,
she needed her
tribe as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah,
so
wonderful.
this tribe
Like-
had a youth group, and now in their 40s, they're still
They
coming to
still
youth
come.
group.
They're
They've changed
awesome.
it from
But
Teen
there's-
Plus
I love
to
it.
Shine.
There's
Change the name.
one
Love
member
it.
of the group who gets quite anxious with change, and there was one day that we changed things in church, and
And I just wasn't thinking.
and John just did as he would, and then I was like, no. So we've learned from it because we went. So next time we want to ask her to do something different, or we're going to set. I was actually setting up the space,
Yes.
and she has her space that she sits in every
And
time
normally
she's
we
there.
sit in rows, and this week we made it into a semicircle.
yeah, no.
And that threw her.
Yeah.
But, you know, what we've learnt from that was about us. Like, we need to do that better. So if we can change things now, we just know that she does better when
adapts
she has
better.
knowledge.
Yes.
So just giving her that
to tell her
prior
it's happening.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Get her to walk into the space,
Yeah,
allow her
feel
to choose
comfortable.
a seat that she's going to
Yeah.
feel comfortable
Oh, I love
before
that.
the service starts, and then she's better able to be with him.
To manage change.
loving.
Yeah.
But,
But I think the other thing, Ness, to answer your question, so Linda's talked about caring and listening. The other is culture.
yes.
That when we don't have a culture of acceptance, you know, we experienced it as family. You
Yeah.
know, we didn't even notice it in ourselves
Yeah.
because we didn't think that would be normal. You know, we
Yes.
didn't think to look. But we've seen it. I know for some Aboriginal people, particularly because they don't look dark in their skin, they won't name that they're Aboriginal because either they get judged,
Yeah, it's been unsafe option.
or in a good sense, but actually still unhelpful, is they then become the targeted one that always has to do the acknowledgement of country and the things like
right.
that.
Wow.
And they just want to be part of the community rather
Yes.
than being seen as super different.
Yeah.
Have their Aboriginality acknowledged. But same with language, culture. You know, we're a multicultural church, but often cultures don't integrate. You know, I love being part of the Tongan community, but I know sometimes I'm called Palangi, which I'm the white
The
person.
white dude. Yeah.
But in the white space, they often feel that they're not accepted. And so we need to do that work where everyone's accepted as they are and we notice each other. You know, there's a great line from Avatar, I see you. And when we see you, then we can adjust
Yeah,
and just
I
go,
love
this
that.
is who you are.
Yeah.
And as Lynda said, we ask your needs then.
Yes.
I know you're not struggling.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
struggling with that.
Yeah.
How can we be the people for you so that you feel like you belong?
It's such a great conversation.
And just not leaving people out.
Just be nice.
Just be kind.
Don't be a dickhead.
That was my main thing I said to
I
our
know.
kids growing up.
Just be nice.
No, just be nice.
Yeah.
Just you be the nice person.
Yeah, that's
you know?
right.
and
that's-
welcome them and just say
Yes.
hi and have a
Include
conversation.
people.
And I often wonder, people that struggle with inclusion and differences and neurospiciness, I wonder what's going on for them, that they don't operate well in including that, and what's going on that they think that they're.
I
do they
think
think they're
unfortunately, I would say church traditionally has been very judgy.
Yeah.
because
has
you've got
been
to
very-
sit still and you've
Doesn't
got to
that
sit
suck?
quiet
Yeah.
and you
Oh.
can't.
You've got to
everything's done
Perform
in a certain
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't work for every person.
Well, the good news is at Uniting Heart and Soul, you don't have to be like that.
Cool.
You
Good
can
to know.
wiggle, you can wee when you need to. It's my opening preamble. You just come and be as you are.
Yep.
And I think in your church too, John. And more
We're working
churches
on it.
today.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
I
People
think
still get
people feel
agitated.
that they can,
Yeah,
but I
that's
still
good.
think whenever you feel that feeling of tensing up and you're going, oh, that's not right. Why is that person being like that? I think that's the listening we need to do to ourselves and say, well, what's going on for me? But more importantly, rather than getting caught up in ourselves. You know, what's going on for that person?
That's right.
What's that person need?
Yeah.
Just compassion.
Beautiful.
Feel weird.
Great
Is there
convo.
anything else we need to talk about?
No, I think that covers it.
Right. What's your message for the church, the world, schools, workplaces?
Let's just be nice and kind and care for other people and not judge them the difference, but just how can we actually include, not just let them sit near, but actually connect.
Draw in.
Yeah.
Not just
with
tolerate.
people. Not
but
just
actually
tolerate,
include.
but connect
welcome.
with people.
Yeah,
Welcome.
That's
Yeah.
it. Oh, it sounds a bit Jesus-y. Look at us go. Who would have thought?
Is there hope for society?
For sure. I mean, if you look at what we were saying, how far have schools come
Yes.
since we were kids
Yeah.
and to where they are now?
No, we just need churches to get on board.
Well, I think
better.
churches have too. I think churches
We're
have come a
getting
long
better.
way too. We're getting better. Exactly.
Thank you
But
for being
got
a
away.
great educator, Lynda, and those lucky kids that come into your orbit. Bless them. They are blessed to have you as a teacher, and
Blessed to do it.
yeah, thank you for all that you bring. Yeah.
Thanks.
So thank you. If you've been listening or watching, thank you for being you. We really value the lovely support. Write a comment on things that you've had. Maybe share an idea and a story, and we'll try and listen with care as well. And we're sorry if you've ever felt unwelcome or not accepted or just not at peace or
Or you've been judged poorly.
when you feel safe in a space, know also that you have the power to say to somebody, hey, I'm not feeling this, or this is just a bit too much. Is there
I'm not
something?
okay.
Ask that question. Is there something we can do that might help me? And it's okay to put your hand up and
100%.
say, to someone safe. Hopefully it's the leaders. And just go, just need to let you know this is who I am, and it'd be really helpful for me in some way, and we can usually adjust. And
It'll help my learning if you could do this for me.
Yeah,
I
or
mean,
that I'm
I
going to
would
wear
love that.
headphones.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm not listening to the service, but I'm actually listening to the service, and I can only cope and pay attention when I'm not being overstimulated, whatever it is. Yeah.
That's good, John. Thanks, team.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay filthy. Stay hopeful.
See you next time.
Bye. We're really glad you joined us. If you can do all that liking and subscribing, it just helps the algorithm help other people find what we're talking about. So if you find it useful, do that clicky stuff. Thanks.